Sahara. How is everyone's day, afternoon, evening? Me personally, I'm doing pretty well. I've got a cup of peppermint tea beside me, and I'm really excited to talk about this topic today because it has been part of the past 4.5 years of my life. That's right, I'm talking about Pepperdine University today. That is my alma mater. I spent 4.5 years there, first studying biology and then switching into nutritional science. And I kind of just wanted to give an overview of why I chose Pepperdine, the whole perspective of my time there, and just some pros and cons. I know a lot of people have their sights on California schools, more so the UCs like UCLA, UC Berkeley, UC Irvine. But Pepperdine is also in California. In fact, it's in Malibu, California, relatively west, but still part of LA County, and it is a beautiful area. We're near lots of beaches, lots of beautiful sights, and it really is just a photogenic place. It's also the place where Zoe 101 was filmed, so if you know about that, then you probably know about Pepperdine University, even if you've never heard of it. So for today's video, I'm just going to talk about how I chose Pepperdine, an overview of my time there, some pros and cons, and then things to just look out for when you're applying to college in the future to see if Pepperdine really is the fit for you. Disclaimer, I would say that everything in this video is just from my experience and my experience only. There are lots of other people at Pepperdine that have very different experiences than I do, and part of that is because of COVID. I did lose a 1.5 years from COVID, and even though I did spend an extra semester, I did lose one of the most fundamental parts of the Pepperdine experience, which is the study abroad. So because of that, I may have a completely different perspective and experience on Pepperdine than some people that have spent the entire 4 years or longer here. So with that, I just want to say that this is my opinion, and you should take everything I say with a grain of salt, get some other perspectives before you look into Pepperdine or even apply. So yeah, with that, let's get started. So how did I choose Pepperdine University? I must admit, I didn't really have Pepperdine in my mindset before applying. I really liked UCs such as UCLA, UC Irvine, UC Santa Barbara, schools like that. I knew that I wanted to go to California. I wanted to go out of state as someone who's from the Midwest. And it wasn't until a family that I babysat for mentioned Pepperdine University where I thought, why not? It seems like a good school, might as well apply, and lo and behold, I got in. And the reason why I chose Pepperdine was because I saw that they were offering me quite a bit of scholarships that UCs didn't really offer me. I got rejected from UCLA, but I did get into schools like UC Santa Barbara, UC Santa Cruz, UC Riverside, but they just didn't offer me as much in scholarships as Pepperdine did. So because of that, I decided to take Pepperdine as an offer. Because I didn't really know about Pepperdine, I didn't really visit Pepperdine until after I got accepted. Maybe I should have done that beforehand. Something that I really would say that Pepperdine does well is their introduction to the school, from the freshman connection, which is the first week, maybe 2 weeks that freshmen have. They're on campus, just them. Their first few days are with the parents to kind of just get an overview of what the school is like, kind of learn about your classes and your majors, things like that. And then after I think 3 or 4 days, the parents leave, and then there are lots of mixers for the students. I would say this is actually very good because a lot of freshmen feel like they're just thrown in to the university system, but Pepperdine gives you a solid 1 to 2 weeks to get comfortable with the campus, and then also just meet new people and have a community. I met so many people during this freshman connection program, and even though a majority of them didn't really work out, it's just part of life. Friendships fall through, and I really did get to meet a lot of people at Pepperdine because of this 1 to 2 week program. Now, I would say the first week as a bio major is kind of straight hell. I feel like they want to put you in as many hard classes as possible to stress you out and also weed out a lot of the STEM majors. because there's no reason that Gen Chem should be that difficult. It went from 0 to 100 so fast that me and a bunch of other people that I knew just did not know how to comprehend. And it's just general chemistry, right? It should not be that hard. And when I went to the professor, she literally looked me dead in the eye and said, if you're struggling now, you should just switch out of STEM. Which, I mean, yes, I struggled, but that doesn't mean that you should completely tear down my dreams. She literally did, give up on your dreams and die. Come on now. I struggled a lot my very first semester, and the second semester started out much better. I took a trip to New York. At the time, we had this program where we would go to different parts of America or maybe even out of the country and help people during spring break. And for me, I went to New York and I helped the third grade classroom, just kind of helping out with whatever the teacher needed, and it was a great time. And the week after that was COVID. So I remember this so vividly. I remember the Wednesday after spring break, they said you need to be out by Sunday. And obviously my family can't travel within 2 days because the airlines were booked and busy. So I said, you know what? I'll just do it myself. I packed up 9 boxes by myself with the help of my roommate's family, and I flew out back to Chicago. And from then until the next year, I was on Zoom. So most sophomores do study abroad. I was supposed to go to Shanghai. That never happened. I did it online. I did Zoom. And then the Shanghai program was canceled. So I literally never had the opportunity to go to Shanghai. Sad, but it's the way that it just worked out. I think COVID was a good breather for me because I was really struggling during that time, just trying to figure out what I wanted to do, what I wanted to make out of my college experience. And I decided that bio was not for me. I was really struggling to the point where I wasn't getting any information. I was just studying in order to pass, and I knew that wasn't healthy for me. I knew I wanted to still stay in STEM. That was something I really wanted to do, but I just didn't like biology, and looking through all the course requisites, I didn't want to take physics. So I honestly looked through most of the majors in STEM, and nutrition didn't have physics. Not only that, but they had a public health class, which was something I was very interested in. I have always wanted to learn more about public health and see if that really was the field for me. And I talked to my parents about it and decided to make the switch right then and there. I knew that I was going to have to spend at least an extra semester, but I knew if this was the right choice for me, then it would all work out in the end. And it did. It was one of the best choices I made being at Pepperdine. If I stayed a biology major, I probably would have suffered. I'm not saying the nutrition major was easy. I still had to take OChem, biochem. I had to take microbiology, other classes that I still would take if I was a bio major, but there were also nutrition classes added onto it, and many of them were either only offered in the spring or offered in the fall. So because of that, I took an extra semester to make up for those fall-only classes, and I was also a junior in a bunch of freshman classes because they have a lot of intro classes that I needed to take in order to continue as a nutrition major. So that was pretty interesting, but the classes were actually stuff that I wanted to learn and I wanted to put more of my effort in. So I knew from the get-go that this was the right decision for me. Now, just summing it up, junior and senior year were pretty much very smooth sailing academic-wise. I really started to put a lot more effort and consideration into my classes. I was able to do a research project for my capstone that I was able to present at both the Pepperdine Symposium and the Capstone Research Symposium. Those are 2 separate events, but one was required for my major and the other was just something that I had the opportunity to do. It really ended faster than I thought it would. 4.5 years just flies by, and I'm really excited to see what comes next. But I just wanted to go over some pros and some cons of Pepperdine as an experience. Maybe those will help you in the future for prospective students that may have Pepperdine on their list. First, I want to start off with pros, because I think there are a lot of pros to Pepperdine. For one, it is a very beautiful campus, as I mentioned before. There are tons of beaches, lots of little areas that you can sit down on campus and enjoy the sunset and just see the beautiful sky and just everything that Pepperdine has to offer, especially in times where I was stressed with certain things, to at least reflect on, this is where I'm studying, I'm so grateful to be here and see everything. There's lots of walking, which can be a con for some, but for me, I do enjoy the walk and just seeing the environment around me, like this is where I get to study. That was very lovely for me. Another pro is the library. It's 2 floors, it's super nice. There's tons of areas to sit down, study, and there's also a tech lab where I used to work at. They had a lot of 3D printers and VR headsets where a lot of classrooms and professors would come in to try to get stuff 3D printed and provide more opportunities for their students. It's just a really nice, expansive space that I lived in, especially during final season. Another pro is Pepperdine is a considerably smaller school. I would say it changes every year, but I would say like max 2,000 people, including the grad school students. This is not something that is statistically correct. This is just something off of the top of my head. You would have to do research in order to figure out if this is legitimately correct, but it's a small school. So a lot of my classes, especially in nutrition, one of the smallest majors at Pepperdine, had around 5 to 6 students, including me. So pretty small. So you get a lot of chances to communicate with your professor, meet with your professor, and really get to know them as a person and vice versa. That's how I was able to get research opportunities, because I would speak to my professor one-on-one and kind of just figure out what I wanted to get out of my nutrition major, and they were able to make that happen for me, and I was able to connect with them and learn more about them and their route in nutrition as well. Now, I would say that from my experience, there are a lot of cons at Pepperdine. One being that a lot of the dorms cannot house people anymore. Because of the COVID pandemic, Pepperdine really started over-admitting people to the point where when I was accepted, it was around 25% admittance. Now it's around 60% admittance, and a lot of upperclassmen can't really secure housing as much as you were used to beforehand. Before, Pepperdine would have their own specific freshman housing, and then upperclassmen would be able to have separate housing. But because of the over-admittance, freshmen go in freshman housing, but now they go in places where upperclassmen are supposed to go, which then drives the upperclassmen out into relatively expensive areas that they might not be able to afford, especially for people that are out of state. Luckily for me, I never really had this issue, but I did see a ton of people that I knew have to rent leases in order to move in to specific apartments off of campus. And that leads to another con. You usually need a car in order to be off campus or even to travel off campus, because Los Angeles County is not a walkable area. I myself had a bit of a culture shock when I first came here, because Chicago is relatively walkable. We have good public transit, there are lots of sidewalks, you can easily get from one place to the other. It is quite literally the opposite in LA. The public transit is not the best. In fact, it's terrible. And also, it's really hard to walk certain places, mostly because of the canyons in the Malibu area. So in order for me to go out, I would have to go with one of my friends that has a car. I personally didn't bring a car on campus. That's a me issue for those that would complain, but I made it work. There were certain times where I would, take an Uber somewhere, but Ubers do add up in the end. So I would recommend either bring a car or have someone that's a friend of yours with a car take you places and you can pay for them. But also remember that the oversaturation of people also leads to the oversaturation of cars. So commuters will have a really hard time parking, and then those that will bring their car onto campus are going to have to park way up in this area called Drescher, which is relatively far from the main campus. I love Drescher. I had a dorm in Drescher, but parking up in Drescher and then getting to main campus will take at least 30 minutes of your time. And if you're a commuter, then that's like a make or break 30 minutes. Am I going to be to class on time, or am I just going to miss class? So that just creates like a cascade of problems from the over-admittance of students. And honestly, if I think Pepperdine should improve on one thing, they should most definitely improve on admitting less students. We need more housing in order to house those students. And we can't be putting students at a disadvantage because you want to admit more people. Another thing that kind of threw me off was a lot of the people in California can be quite passive, at least the ones from Pepperdine. Most of them did grow up in rather privileged areas, and because of that, they don't really know how to address conflict. So for someone like myself that comes from a place where we tend to be kind of blunt and tend to confront conflict in order to communicate, a lot of people tend to kind of cower away, and that leads to a lot of gossip, and that can also lead to a lot of things that would just be resolved if we communicate with each other. I had a few situations where specific friend groups, there were misunderstandings in certain things, and what could have been solved by some simple communication and some working around led to situations where I had to report people because they were making up rumors and kind of spreading gossip, which did impact me for a long time. I understand that Pepperdine has a lot of great people. I've met some of my best friends at Pepperdine, and they really helped me see the school for what it is. But there are some people that really never grew up outside of high school, and it really shows in the way that they handle conflict, because conflict is a part of life. If you really can't avoid conflict, you have to learn how to deal with it. And a lot of people that I've encountered did not know how to deal with it, and part of that could be me just being blunt, but another part of it is they were unable to come up to me and say, Sahara, this XYZ, can we please talk about this? I'm willing to talk it out, but also going behind someone's back and mentioning that to other people, and then from there perpetuating gossip is unhealthy, it's disrespectful to everyone, and it can lead to situations where, in the case for me, I felt unsafe to the point where I had to report it. Another thing is that most of the dorms do not have AC. This actually did lead me into like a confusing predicament when I had a ruptured ovarian cyst, and everyone thought I was dehydrated because the room was so hot. But it took like an hour, 2 hours for them to realize that something was legitimately wrong, and then I had to go to the hospital. So it was because of that I did have to suffer a little longer. It's also just unpleasant, especially LA does have a lot of heat waves, and you have to have that fan, but the fan just blows the hot air around. If you have an accommodation, you can actually submit a form that will get you an AC. For me, because of my incident, I was able to have an AC unit for my last year, and it really helped actually because there was a lot of heat waves and stuff. So I would say that's a pro and a con. It really depends on your circumstances, but normally Pepperdine dorms do not have AC. I would say the last con for me, going back to the whole walkable area thing, is that a lot of Malibu is very expensive. Obviously, it's Malibu. You do kind of sign up for that when you apply and accept the acceptance. And I would say that because of that, a lot of places do they bend the budget a little bit, and they also close really early. I would say they close like 8 at the latest. And because of that, a lot of people do tend to go either to Santa Monica, which is east, or to Calabasas, which is north, because there's a lot more grocery stores, there's a lot more restaurants, and there's just more things to do. But again, you do need a car or someone with a car, so just something to look out for. These are my experiences, and overall, I do look at Pepperdine in a positive light. I think this school gave me many opportunities, many ways to develop and learn and grow, and if it wasn't for my time at Pepperdine, I wouldn't have realized the transition that I wanted to make into public health, nutrition, and then also just learning more about myself and how I work with people. I've met so many great people, I've met so many great professors that have taught me about their life path, and just being as an out-of-state student, I really learned a lot about being independent and growing as a person without my family. I do love my family, but I think there are some times where you need to grow individually from them and kind of have your own life experiences and take that back with you when you finish and have a bunch of experience. I would say that I did have the opportunity to go to Fiji for my summer of 2022, and that did make up for the Shanghai trip. I would have spent the whole year in Shanghai, but Fiji was great. I got to learn so much about myself, the people around me, the local Fijians, and also just learn more about public health because it was a nutrition public health mission trip. So with that, I will take any questions that you have in the comments. If you really enjoyed this video, please provide other suggestions about what you may want to know about Pepperdine. Subscribe if you would like, bell button, all of that jazz. And thank you so much. I'll see you so soon. Goodbye.